Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. Before we get into things, I just want to bring to your attention this press headline from today because it's an issue which has been bubbling under the surface ever since Harry and Meghan aired last week. So the eagle-eyed among you will already know about this, but it hit the headlines today. And it's with regards to the Queen's speech she gave on her 21st birthday, because Netflix edited out 3 words from her famous sentence about declaring her life of service to us all. Well, they edited out 3 words and focused in on the part about imperialism, the imperial family. And even though it's just a slight change, it should demonstrate to you the devious nature of this, the agenda that they have to shift and shape the narrative in very subtle ways. Only 3 words, but it's been picked up because it is impactful and it's meaningful. And, you know, it shows the audience that Netflix want to appease, and it's devious, it's mischievous and unnecessary. I mean, 3 words. It can't have affected the running time that much to leave 3 words in there. In the original speech, the Queen declared that her whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. Just harmless enough, isn't it? They edited out the bit where she says shall be devoted to your service, so that it only reads in that episode, I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. So they've only snipped out 3 words, but come on now. Did you really think that you were going to gaslight us and get away with it? Because that's what it is, isn't it? That is what it is. It's gaslighting. And that word's been cropping up so much in the press lately because Harry has been seen in the trailers declaring that he is the victim of institutional gaslighting. And people weren't sure if he was talking about the press or the palace, likely to be a combination of both of them. But as we've seen in today's trailer released by Netflix, which focuses on Meghan and her lawyer, Jenny Afia, actually naming the palace and saying that negative stories were put out by them and that Meghan was used as a scapegoat to protect other members of the family. Well, I intend to watch tomorrow's episodes with an open mind. I'll have my popcorn ready, of course, but I will also be watching with a healthy dose of skepticism and cynicism, because I have heard with my own ears on her podcast the way that she takes information and dramatizes it with a sort of histrionic element. Yes, I have. So I know that anything she comes out with, I already know. I already know that everything she comes out with goes through the filter and the lens of the storyteller, of heightening the drama, and also through the lens of Harry's paranoia. I know that. I've seen it. And yes, while I can certainly accept that within the palace institution there will be leaks coming out to the press here, there and everywhere, as there always have been, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can accuse these people of gaslighting. And some of those leaky stories might be false. Some of them might just be an opinion. Some of them might be terribly unfair. But just because these stories are critical ones, why can't that just be what it is? Why do you have to shroud it with the cloak of gaslighting? Now, for those that don't know, gaslighting means that you manipulate someone to question their own reality. That is gaslighting. And gaslighting has become one of those words that is used to silence critics. It is more powerful because it invokes more fear. Just as when they took to Oprah Winfrey, they shrouded their original complaints in the cloak of bigotry and racism and the colour conversation, which then became the story. Do you see? Because they know it invokes fear, the fear of being considered racist and the damage that can do to a reputation these days, especially on the wings of the BLM movement and the radical success of the ascension of critical race theory. If you don't want to have your own reality questioned, then don't contradict it every time you open your gob, my dears. For example, Harry, when you and your wife on Oprah Winfrey offered different accounts of the same incident on the same show, you gave us 2 different versions. Or what about the time when you reimagined or recaptured the date of your wedding, which had to be refuted by the Archbishop of Canterbury himself? Was he gaslighting you, His Holiness? When Dame Felony uses the fear of being branded racist to smite the international reputation of a truly decent woman, and then claims she is the victim of abuse when put under the same scrutiny, exactly who is gaslighting who? When your trailers are manipulated and edited to juice up the drama, the controversy, and generate headlines with regards to shade thrown at William and Catherine, who is gaslighting who? They lied to protect my brother, says Harry. You still haven't wrapped your head around the fact, have you, my love, that he is our future monarch, and that many will go out of their way to protect our sovereign. However, you and your Duchess are not famed for being arbiters of the truth, so what you perceive as a lie, others may say, recollections may vary. But is it gaslighting? Is it gaslighting when you know that the royal attitude is never complain, never explain, and you know that they cannot respond as a regular person would, or as a regular institution would? And let's make no bones about it, judging from the first 3 episodes only, I certainly came away with the feeling of a smear campaign, not just against the palace, but against Britain itself. This smear campaign, and I must say that this is under the directorship of Liz Garbus, who, until I watched it, I was very fair-minded with, but who I will now refer to as Liz Garbage, because that is the kind of nonsense that she's been whipping up. It's a smear campaign. So when Has and Meg contribute to this smear campaign, this mission to damage the reputation of the institution, the Commonwealth, and the family, twisting every narrative to make it all about race, feeding into this propaganda machine, exactly who is gaslighting who? When your every utterance and your every broadcast encourages us to be kind, to be caring, to be community-minded, but then throw Granny under the bus, denigrate Granny's reign, denigrate Daddy's character, and bro and sissy-in-law's integrity and their character, who is gaslighting who? Oh, and also, by the way, the insidious cruelty, the sort of torturous, sadistic element of threatening truth bombs. In a way, it's holding the royal family to ransom, isn't it? I'm going to be releasing a memoir in 12 months' time. You're not going to know what's in it. I'm going to be releasing a 2-volume Netflix extravaganza in a year or 2. But I'm not going to tell you what's coming round the corner, and you're just going to have to deal with the headlines. We're going to collect our trophy from the Kennedys for standing up to racism within the royal family, even though my brother, who I claim to love to bits, is due to inherit the throne of that institution, and my daddy is currently sitting on that throne. Threatening these truth bombs in the name of publicity and whipping up a media storm, but never actually detonating anything. Their Majesties released the image from their Christmas card this year, and it's a really lovely photograph, isn't it? It was taken on September 3rd, which was just 3 days before the Queen died, in his role as the Duke of Rothesay, as he was then, at the Braemar gathering. And that was actually the first time that he had stood in for the Queen. It was the first time she missed that gathering. She loved it so it's a poignant photograph, but I really love it. I wasn't quite so keen on William and Catherine's Christmas card. I mean, there's no denying it's a beautiful image, so it's nice from that perspective, but I don't find it especially Christmassy. And, you know, it's a second one. Last year we had them abroad, the one where William was astride a golden ball. Well, that was another summery affair, and I'm afraid I just don't care for it for Christmas. I mean, come on, can't we have a bit more of festive cheer? You know, some lovely autumnal scenes would be better. I know you can't just... these things have to be done a little bit in advance, so a frosty, snowy scene might not be quite so possible. Something a bit autumnal and atmospheric for the season, instead of these postcards from your vacays abroad, my darlings. But, you know, a nice image nevertheless, just not really to my taste, but that was nice. But what we did get as a wonderful festive preview was Catherine in red again. red again, this time a sequined affair. And this was promoting the carol service, the Princess of Wales's carol service. Well, she's the host of it, really. And that's going to take place tomorrow after the Netflix airing, so you will see a royal and regal display from our beloved Catherine. And she's wearing a red gown here by Needle and Thread that was worn in 2020, so we've seen it before on a state visit. A cinched sequin bodice, long sheer sleeves adorned with floral appliques and decorative ruffles. Really delicious it is there. Queen Camilla spent time meeting folk who have been helped out of homelessness by a charity she's been patron of for 16 years. She works very closely with that charity and has done for a long time, and it provides a home, support and training to people who have experienced homelessness. And I did really see her twinkling eyes captured in this segment. Can you see there? I thought it was very nice. She was often disparaged for her looks for such a long time, wasn't she? But she really is a lovely looking lady with very warm, twinkling eyes. And it's the kind of warmth that is authentic. You know, it's an authentic glance, which is something that you rarely see in the likes of Meghan. Well, this has been quite a delicious turn-up for the books for those of you that have been following the curious case of Ngozi Fulani, Dame Felony. She's opened a can of worms herself. And by throwing an innocent, good-hearted, decent woman of 83 years old and 62 years service to the Queen who did nothing wrong, nothing, she threw her under the bus, accused her of abuse, as well as accusing Camilla and Charles of domestic abuse in the past. She threw her under the bus publicly, under the guise of doing it kindly. I didn't want to expose who she was, so I only referred to her as Lady S.H. Talk about gaslighting. She exposed her, subjected Susan Hussey to a torrent of abuse from the world's media, at home and abroad. But that was all right, that was acceptable, because it was in the name of kindness and wanting to educate. Well, she's having a taste of her own medicine recently, and she doesn't seem to like it very much. She's turtling. She's turtling, as Meghan would say. Sister Space is temporarily shut down or something because it's been subjected to scrutiny, and people out there have been putting Sister Space, her charity, which involves many members of her family, under the microscope. And what's been discovered ain't been pretty. Ain't been pretty. It's so satisfying. It truly is. It's started to emerge in the press, and it's caught the attention of the Charity Commission here in the United Kingdom. And although they are not under investigation as yet, they are assessing the claims that have been made against the operations of Sister Space. And this episode with Lady Hussey fits the form of Dame Felony. It fits the form of her modus operandi, which is to gaslight others, accusing others of bigotry and racism, because she understands the power of its effect, which is fear. The fear of being painted and tarnished with the reputation of being a racist. She understands this fear very well, and she exploits it for all it's worth. And time reveals Dame Felony, and time will reveal what she is. Over the last few days, just for those of you that didn't know this, an anonymous Twitter user under the name of James published hundreds of tweets. It was a great long stream of them. It's one of the reasons I'm not a great big fan of Twitter and have never used it, because you have to go through all these different threads to read anything. But anyway, he published this very long stream of tweets because he'd been investigating Sister Space. He spent 10 days doing this, and it boggles my mind how forensic it is, how much research this chap, if it is a chap, has done onto the goings-on and the financial accounting of this charity, Sister Space. And it has to be said, I don't know if it's all true. I don't know if they've done anything wrong or if they haven't, but it certainly makes the most compelling read. I was reading yesterday for over an hour, these tweets. It takes a long time to wade through. So I'm certainly not going to go into all of it here. You can Google away and find it. And I'm quite sure there will be many channels out there that are doing a deep dive into this and giving further explanations, so I'll leave it to them. I'm not going to go there, but suffice to say that Sister Space have claimed hundreds of thousands of pounds worth in grants, many grants, including some very questionable ones coming from the Mayor of London, via their friend Diane Abbott. And I am not suggesting or implying that anything was done in bad faith, but this Twitter user, James, certainly is, and has found some astonishing finds by going through their apparently rather dodgy accounting. And a lot of questions are being asked about where the money's gone. For example, one of their grants was £60,000 doled out to them for a new website and the promotion of this new website. And under investigation, this James character could only find that they might have splashed out a few £100. So it is concerning. And it seems that plenty of benefactors and organisations have been falling over themselves to dole out payments to Sister Space. And they brushed up against Hackney Council as well for one of these grants. And from what I understand, they seem to employ the same tactic with Hackney Council of accusing them of racism until they got their own way. So it seems they've diligently worked out exactly the modus operandi that will work to benefit them, and perhaps not quite so much their charity. So if you've taken an interest in the curious case of Ngozi Fulani, I urge you to take a look at this Twitter stream and to keep yourself abreast of any news. I'm sure we will see some more emerging. So quite intriguing, quite delicious, but I will reiterate for legal reasons that certainly no implication from me that there has been any wrongdoing whatsoever from Sister Space or Ngozi Fulani, otherwise known under many names. We learn as well from this Twitter user James that she has used many names officially, various variations, and so have her family members. And there's also quite a lot of tea and juice about her family members, such as her son and daughter. So I'm not insinuating or confirming anything other than the fact that karma bites. The King paid a visit to the National College for the Blind to mark the 150th anniversary and was shown the training given to those enrolled, from learning Braille and business skills to massage techniques. Lucky Camilla. I noticed the King's equerry, Johnny Thompson, there. It's harder to spot him when he's in civilian dress, isn't it? But there he was. And the King was impressed by a fantastic demonstration of blind football during a visit to this specialist college which prepares students for work. And congratulations to the people of Wrexham, who are celebrating their new status as a city. And we saw the King at Wrexham Football Club meeting the co-owners, who included the actor Ryan Reynolds, alongside various players. And Mr. Reynolds was very respectful and sort of complimentary really about the King and Queen, saying that he was ridiculously excited about meeting them and he had been brushing up on the protocols and etiquette, which of course wasn't really necessary, but very respectful of him. And we also got to see the King planting some oak saplings in memory of the late Queen, and I really enjoyed these snowy, frosty photographs shared by the palace of various royal residences. That's the sort of Christmassy card affair that I enjoy. The talk revolving around the coronation is about Charles's role as defender of the faith, and it appears that he will be retaining that traditional title of the faith, meaning the Church of England, as opposed to all the faiths, defender of faith in general. You know, quite a few things were bandied about, but it seems like he will be retaining that traditional title, with a keen eye to make sure at his coronation that all faiths will be recognised, and he will be speaking about his commitment to multiple religions. And the wonderful thing about Charles is that during his long tenureship as the Prince of Wales, he forged so many bonds with so many leaders and congregations and communities of all faiths and none throughout this kingdom and beyond. And he has a really thorough education and understanding of these belief systems and what is held sacred to various communities. And he's been praised for it. I saw a really nice article by Hardeep Singh in The Spectator this week, Why Sikhs Love King Charles III. And of course, Mr. Singh was generalising, he said that. But the common consensus within the Sikh community is that Charles is really a force for good, and that he is very respectful and a friend of their faith, which is so important in such a diverse country. And the professor who greeted the king last week, when we saw him at the Gurdwara, kneeling on the ground and donning the scarves and this, that and the third, he praised the king, and he told The Spectator, "For a king to sit in prayers in a non-Church of England space, to me is amazing and highly significant." So it's great work, it fosters great relationships, but of course, when you turn onto Netflix, it goes completely under the radar, you know. Thankless, isn't it? Thankless task for these ingrates, because this is the work that all the members of the royal family have been doing for decades, all the time. But you'll never hear about that. All you'll hear about is the sort of outrage that Lady Susan Hussey got for daring to ask somebody, "Where'd you come from?" Now, I'm not one for polls, national polls. I don't put much faith in them or their accuracy, but it was rather heartwarming to see that a YouGov poll tells us that the Harkle's popularity has plunged dramatically recently, with 33% of the UK holding a positive view of Harry and 59% holding a negative opinion of him, with a similar drop for Meg. Thank you for joining me, my old fruits. I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Let's see what they come out with tomorrow. More nonsense on stilts. My tip jar is in the description box below, and I'll see you next time. Toodle pip.